In this video, guys, we're going to look at how we can use Finviz to screen US stocks for a large short float, and also talk about why that's important in this video. Stay tuned. Hey guys, a very warm welcome to you. Thank you for joining me. All right, so if you haven't checked out channel sponsor, do so. There's a link in the description below. What I want to talk about in this video is specifically how we can screen for a large short float on a stock. Now, a stock's short float is basically telling us how many people, how much of the percentage, should I say, of the float, total shares in issue, is held short. Now, why would we want to look at that? Well, we might want to look at that purely to say, okay, if the market is rallying and we know there's a lot of people who are short, what have shorts got to do if they're wrong? They've got to cover. You know, and covering means buying. So if there's buying pressure and the market is pushing higher, those guys are under serious pressure. They're losing money. They may have to cover the position by buying, adding more fuel to the fire. It's called a short squeeze. So we're trying to identify a short squeeze. Now, just because there's a large short float doesn't mean that there's going to be a short squeeze, because generally speaking, guys, if there's a large short interest on the stock, it probably means that it's overvalued from a kind of fundamental perspective. And very often, guys, you're going to see prices, markets that are just, or should I say charts, that are just grinding lower and lower and lower and lower on a heavy short float because the company is just dying. And that's why the hedge funds and why all the institutions are going short on it. However, from time to time, you're going to get a lot of companies who are positioned short and they get caught out. You think the company's overvalued, and it's maybe a company that's difficult to value, maybe it's got a lot of retail interest, maybe it's won some sort of contract, anything that causes it to spike, and all of a sudden they're caught nursing a heavy loss. In fact, Tesla was a kind of recent example of it. So let's hit the screens and see how we can screen for a decent sized short float to try and identify a potential short squeeze. Let's go. All right, guys, so I'm in the screen now. I'm in finviz.com, and what I want to do is I want to screen for a high float short. So I can go into scripts, or I can go into all. I'm hitting the screener tab here. And now float short is, we really want to, high is fine. We can go over 30% if we want. But basically anything over 20%, and it can go a lot higher, guys, but anything over 20% is a good starting point for us. So we can start off with this, and then if we click on the ownership tab here, we can start to then rank them by float short. So we can click on that and we can go, right, let's see what the highest float short is. And we can see all the way down from this one, 96.84%, all the way down to our 20%. Now, what do we do from here? So what we want to do, guys, is we want to make sure that the company is got a decent amount of volume. So we can filter if we want for kind of our average volume, which is always quite good. If we do, let's say over 1 million shares a day, because we don't want to have any kind of really tiny stuff in this 30,000 shares a day or something. We can do over that, over 2 million if you really want to. And that you're showing you kind of reasonable companies that have got liquidity, that have got a high short float on them. Now, when we go to charts, I like to go onto the candle because I don't like to see that. I'm not interested in kind of the way Finviz puts it technical. Now what we can do is we can start to look and we can start to scan through visually, knowing we've already got a high short float, knowing we've got a decent average volume, some of the stuff that is rallying. For example, one that's catching my eye straight away is this Angie. You know, something that's not really interesting will be something like this MITT. Any of these are just not interested because they're already down, they're getting hammered. There's obviously some sort of issue with it. It's been there since April. I'm not bothered. Now, if that happens to rally back up to 20, it will catch my eye when I do the screen again. So I'm not interested in these kind of things. What I'm interested in is these kind of things that maybe have had a really big rip off the low, and shorts are going, oh, you know what? That doesn't look so good for us. So let's click on that and let's have a look. Now we can see we've got a decent short float here, 57%. You know, this is kind of one that you'd have your eye on, because if it really starts to go, you know, there's a nice little bull flag set up here. If it really starts to rip and maybe going to 15, 16, even 20, and the short float is still quite high, this is something that can really, really move, guys. These, you know, if the shorts is trapped and they're not doing very, very well, and it's an unexpected move, which it looks like it probably was. It was sitting there struggling down at $5 for ages. Now it's up at $11. If it starts going to $20, people aren't going to be so happy with it. Especially when you go in, you kind of look at all the other stuff that goes into it. I'm not going to go into kind of any more stuff, but you can kind of see how now we can really start to scan through these things and go, right, let's look at next, nothing else is really catching my eye. We want stuff that's at significant highs. If you really want to, you can also go into the technical sector and you can put 50-day high low, so you can put 10% or 10% or more below the high and screen even more, like it says 53, if you wanted to do that. So you can do that, but what you really want is something that's caught people out. Like that Angie hasn't been caught in that because it's probably just about been rallying off the lows. Don't forget with the coronavirus lows here. So don't go crazy with your filters, but you can easily eyeball through. What have we got here? 85. It's more than enough to scan through and go, okay, what have I got? This might be okay. This has doubled in price. I'll have a look at that one. You can click on the chart on that, add it to your watch list. None of these are that interesting. None of these are that interesting. And you can kind of see what we're looking for. We're looking for big, strong moves with a heavy short flow. This is not too bad. This is starting to move this home. I'd probably put this in, especially if we started breaking above this $9 level. That's something that would probably come into view. Reasonable short float on that, 28%. Scroll down. I'm not spending much time here. I'm not overthinking it. This could go if it goes again. This looks like it's a bit of a thin stock, to be honest, but again, this type of thing, 26% short float. If that reverses right back, no good. If it starts to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, then it could be game on. We could be interested in that. And the final one, let's have a look at this. Grub, maybe, not that much, but you get the idea. So you can start to mess around with this and start to filter some of the stuff that comes into, start to filter stuff that's got a decent short float. Now, if you want to be a little bit more looser with your parameters, you can go over 10% if you want, and you can kind of scroll through that. Because in the day, guys, if it's a reasonable short float, even 10% is a lot. You can start off with 20, you can go down, you want to go much lower than that because then you're just kind of diluting the whole point of it. But if you're starting off on an over 20%, you put your average volume in and just eyeball that and just see what happens. And do that. If you have that in your schedule to do once every couple of weeks or once a month, you're going to catch some that potentially are going to be really good short squeezes that might give you an opportunity for momentum trades the upside. I'm not looking for a complete reversal. I'm not looking to hold this thing for a massive amount of time, but I want a just decent trade that offers a sensible risk-reward ratio and can be maybe used for a kind of 2 or 3 day move, swing trade, bang, take the money, get out of it, look for the next trade. So something to look out for, especially if the market is strong, especially when things are coming off lows as they are at the moment. Anyway, take care, guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.